kickboxer, pimp, mafia-associated criminal. Like, I've got all this stuff, and it was like, who is this dude? Like, surely it can't all be true. It's all true.
They project a false version of reality in real time that people subscribe to.
And just look at the world and feel like, kind of like we're in the Matrix, like there's something missing.
Number one enemy of the Matrix. I'm the enemy of the Matrix.
Trying to frame me, but God knows the truth. There's no evidence in my files. I've done nothing wrong. Everybody knows I'm innocent.
They charge me with garbage because they have nothing. There are no victims. I've done nothing wrong.
Nobody believes I'm a bad person. 99% of the comments on any of my videos are positive.
It's all hilarious, bro. It's a joke. Human trafficking for TikTok. The whole thing's a joke.
Andrew Tate's rise was loud, brash, and engineered for virality. The man once crowned top G sold more than advice, he sold a full-blown fantasy. Fast cars, luxury villas, private jets, endless money, and the promise of becoming untouchable if you joined his world. Millions bought in, repeating his mantras, resharing his clips, and declaring him the savior of masculinity. But the higher you climb, the harder you fall. And for Tate, the cracks in the empire are spreading too fast to patch. From arrests to scandals, failed business promises to fan betrayal, the downfall of Andrew Tate isn't just a story of one man, it's a case study in how the internet builds gods to watch them burn. Before we go deeper, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and drop a comment with your thoughts on Tate's saga. Now let's dive into how the so-called alpha male is watching his empire implode in real time.
So I'm trying to teach these women, and the women kept f***ing it up. So I said to them, like, you know what? I'm taking over. So what I did is I unplugged their keyboards, plugged a new one in for me behind the screen. So the chicks would sit there and hit a keyboard that wasn't plugged in. And me and my brother, and eventually some staff I trained, would do all the talking. The girls were just pure, just famoosers, just laughing, and doing this. You know? And they were talking to fucking ice cold hustlers. We were taking their money, all of it. And they'd come and say, what kind of, all of it. We were fucking milking them dry. Milking them dry.
At his peak, Tate was untouchable in the eyes of his fans. A four-time world kickboxing champion who built an empire on content, he turned virality into a science. Every clip was designed to polarize. Every soundbite was meant to be stitched, clipped, and debated endlessly. He positioned himself as the antidote to modern weakness, claiming he knew the secrets to wealth and power that the mainstream would never teach. And it worked. Followers didn't just watch, they recruited others. His paid program, The Real World, promised not just skills but brotherhood, not just knowledge but status. Top G wasn't just a nickname, it was branding at its most ruthless. He was everywhere at once, dominating TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube, commanding attention like a one-man media army. But inside that hype machine, the seeds of collapse were already planted.
Never pitch a girl to me webcam until I never. I've tried it 100 times. I've got lazy. I've been on a date with a girl. She's clearly a hoe. She's done cam before. Like, it ticks every box. I'm like, and before I pitch cam, and they never do it. Oh, no, I don't do that anymore. No, you think I'm this. No, you think I'm that. No, yeah, they pretend they're offended. You know they're not. To try and prove to you that there's some kind of good girl. It's bullshit. Fuck first. Do not ever ask a girl to work for you. After I wouldn't say no once because she got past the test. Or do the test, pass the test, 2 or 3 more times. I'd say maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that. Say I'm thinking of starting this.
His empire relied not on sustainable value, but constant attention. And attention is a double-edged sword. The same algorithm that builds you up waits eagerly to flip the script and drag you down. The first real collapse came with his Romanian arrest in December 2022. The infamous pizza box rumor went viral, and while later debunked, the damage was already done. The optics were devastating. Andrew Tate, the man who sold himself as untouchable, was suddenly in handcuffs. His immediate response was to declare it all a conspiracy, blaming the Matrix, the system, anyone but himself. His loyalists echoed it, chanting that their leader was being silenced for speaking the truth. But outside that echo chamber, the internet laughed. A brand built on dominance was now the butt of global memes. From house arrest to court restrictions, his content suddenly looked less like bravado and more like denial. Every broadcast became a desperate attempt to stay in control of the narrative, but the spectacle of a so-called alpha caged in his own villa was impossible to spin. Rumors began swirling about what authorities really found during those raids, with whispers of deeper investigations into his business empire.
I'll give a very quick rundown on the case. Everything from these old videos, old clips, my webcam company, things that happened 10 years ago have absolutely nothing to do with the case. Absolutely zero. Anything you see from before 2021 has nothing to do with the case.
The goal is that you can buy the token and own a percentage of the school. So imagine you sign up for the real world, you start to make money, you focus on your tasks, Then you can invest that money in the real world token and get paid every single month a monthly dividend from the profits of the school.
Whether true or not, the public didn't need proof. The image of the untouchable top G behind bars was powerful enough, and that was only the beginning. Once released, Tate leaned harder into controversy, pivoting into the very world he had mocked: cryptocurrency. After calling crypto degeneracy, suddenly he was launching tokens, promising his followers not just financial freedom, but ownership in his empire. Coins like Daddy Coin and the Real World token were paraded as revolutionary, a chance for fans to ride alongside their idol to generational wealth. Streams turned into bizarre performances, where he would pump the coin's price whenever fans spammed insults at critics like CoffeeZilla. It looked like swagger, but to outsiders, it looked like a circus. And when the charts inevitably dipped, bag holders realized they had been clapping for their own losses. For a man who once claimed to despise scams, the optics were brutal. The Alpha brand was looking more like a Ponzi scheme in designer sunglasses, and behind the scenes, rumors spread about business partners quietly backing away, not wanting to be dragged into the chaos.
If you're going to defend me, do it respectfully. Even if people hate me, even if they're insulting me, don't insult them back. Hate doesn't beat hate. It just creates a brick wall. If somebody says they hate me, explain to them calmly that they don't understand the context. Show them a longer format video.
I really want to make it clear when you're defending me to try and do it in a respectful way, because sometimes haters come at me and talk a bunch of garbage. I don't want any of my fans to come along and say, well, you're an idiot.
Allegedly, even some of his closest allies began questioning whether the money machine was sustainable or just a flashy house of cards. His online school, the very foundation of his empire, also started showing cracks. What was marketed as a skills academy began looking suspiciously like a digital pyramid. New recruits were urged to bring in more members, wins were vague or unverified, and the content looped like an endless carousel. Instead of empowerment, fans felt trapped in a system designed to keep them paying and evangelizing without ever truly leveling up. Loyalty became a test. Doubt was treated as weakness. And in an environment like that, people eventually calculate the truth. The costs outweigh the benefits. Some stayed loyal, but more began whispering that they had been played. And in the ruthless world of the internet, whispers turn into posts, posts into memes, and memes into trends. Critics compared the real world to a glorified subscription cult, where the real money wasn't in teaching, but in keeping the cycle spinning. And once that perception sets in, even the most loyal start asking hard questions they once ignored. The most devastating blow to trust came with the massive data breach in December 2024. Over 800,000 real-world accounts were compromised. Emails, phone numbers, even payment histories leaked across underground forums. Fans who once paid to feel protected and empowered suddenly became prey for phishing scams and spam attacks. And instead of treating it as the crisis it was, Tate brushed it off, blaming it once again on the Matrix and using the chaos as a chance to promote his school even harder. To his most loyal fans, it was just another test of faith. But for many, it was the final straw. Forums lit up with furious posts. Ex-members declared they had lost not just money, but respect. Because empowerment can survive skepticism, but it can't survive betrayal. The so-called fortress had been breached, and the leader treated it like a punchline. Some fans alleged they had lost hundreds, even thousands, after their leaked info was used in scams. Suddenly, what was once marketed as financial freedom became financial risk, and the irony wasn't lost on anyone. The scandals didn't stop with money and data. In early 2025, leaked videos began spreading online that hinted at violent behavior in Tate's personal relationships. Soon after, multiple ex-girlfriends came forward with stories of control, intimidation, and threats. The backlash was immediate and ferocious. The self-styled protector of women was suddenly painted as the opposite. The internet that once amplified his lessons on dominance now amplified accusations of toxicity and abuse. This wasn't about crypto charts or subscription models anymore. This cut straight to morality. Memes turned venomous, fans felt cornered, defenders ran out of arguments. Because when the very foundation of your alpha image, strength, control, protection collides with allegations of cruelty, no Matrix narrative can save you. The character crumbled, and the man was left exposed. And the gossip didn't stop there. Rumors spread that more videos existed, that more exes were preparing to speak, and that the house of cards was only starting to collapse. Whether true or not, the anticipation of more dirt was enough to keep the flames burning. By late 2024, the walls tightened further. In London, a court seized over $2 million linked to tax evasion allegations. Cold, hard figures, backed by legal documents, stripped away his ability to spin the situation. You can mock critics, you can posture in streams, but you can't outtalk tax law. For a man who preached that rules didn't apply to him, the humiliation was sharper than the money itself. The alpha had to bow before something as mundane as taxes. The internet wasted no time turning it into a joke. Turns out the Matrix is a London tax office clerk, one comment read, and it spread like wildfire. Even among his own fan base, the seizure was harder to dismiss. Because while loyalty can survive rumors, it struggles against receipts. Some claimed this was just the beginning, that more financial investigations were underway across Europe. The whispers of frozen accounts and offshore scrutiny only added to the sense that the empire was bleeding from every angle. What followed was a strange retreat. In March 2025, Tate announced he was leaving the United States and returning to Romania, claiming he would prove his innocence. But insiders suggested it wasn't courage, it was escape. Soon after, the Florida Attorney General's office issued a blunt warning. If Tate returned to U.S. soil, prosecution would await. The bravado about defying the Matrix suddenly looked more like fear of extradition. For the first time, the alpha who mocked weakness looked like a man running from accountability. The final irony? He didn't just lose money, he lost the biggest stage, the American audience that helped fuel his empire. Exile is not a victory lap, no matter how you phrase it. And whispers began circulating that this was less about facing the Matrix and more about avoiding an arrest warrant waiting stateside. If that's true, the move wasn't strategy, it was survival. And so here we are. Andrew Tate, once the internet's most polarizing alpha, has become a meme of his own making. His empire has been hit by arrests, crypto controversies, data leaks, allegations of abuse, tax seizures, and legal exile. His followers are fractured between loyalists clinging to the Matrix narrative and ex-believers admitting they were scammed. The very persona that made him unstoppable now traps him because reinvention requires humility, and humility kills the character of Top G. That's the paradox. He can keep the act alive and bleed credibility, or drop the act and watch the empire collapse completely. Either way, the downfall isn't the work of haters or the Matrix. It's the work of contradictions, receipts, and the simple truth that you can't out-alpha the law, math, and morality. The story of Andrew Tate isn't just about one man. It's a cautionary tale for the digital age, where fame inflates overnight and collapses just as fast. When you build an empire on slogans instead of substance, betrayal is inevitable. The internet crowns kings for sport, but it loves nothing more than tearing them down. And Tate, who once weaponized that cycle, has now become its most high-profile victim. Whether this is his end or just another chapter, one thing is certain: the aura of invincibility is gone. What remains is a man living in the shadow of his own brand, mocked more than admired, and a reminder that the only thing harder than climbing to the top is surviving there without falling into your own trap. The story of Andrew Tate isn't just about one man. It's a cautionary tale for the digital age, where fame inflates overnight and collapses just as fast. When you build an empire on slogans instead of substance, betrayal is inevitable. The internet crowns kings for sport, but it loves nothing more than tearing them down. And Tate, who once weaponized that cycle, has now become its most high-profile victim. Whether this is his end or just another chapter, one thing is certain: the aura of invincibility is gone. What remains is a man living in the shadow of his own brand, mocked more than admired, and a reminder that the only thing harder than climbing to the top is surviving there without falling into your own trap. But here's the twist that makes Tate's downfall even messier. His story isn't just about fame and money, it's about influence. For years, he positioned himself as a mentor to millions of young men searching for identity in a chaotic world. He taught them to see him as a model of strength, rebellion, and clarity. But when the scandals erupted, those same followers were forced to reckon with the contradictions. Some felt betrayed, admitting they had wasted money on empty promises. Others still defend him with cult-like devotion, convinced every scandal is fabricated by powerful enemies. And that's what makes his collapse dangerous. Even while losing mainstream credibility, he retains a base that will defend him no matter what. It's a reminder of how parasocial loyalty works. Once people tie their self-worth to a public figure, they'll fight for him even when the evidence piles sky high. In Tate's case, his most loyal fans have now become his last line of defense, fighting a war of perception even as the facts close in. And that's why this saga might not have a clean ending, because Andrew Tate thrives in chaos. Every scandal, every headline, every court appearance becomes content, every insult becomes a badge of honor. In his world, bad press is still press, and as long as cameras roll, he has an audience. But the internet has changed. Where once he commanded attention as an untouchable alpha, now much of that attention comes from mockery, parody, and schadenfreude. People tune in less to be inspired and more to watch the downfall in real time. The danger for Tate is that you can't monetize humiliation forever. Eventually, the memes replace the message, the brand becomes a punchline, and the leader becomes irrelevant. That's the final blow he can't deflect. Not the Matrix, not the media, not even the courts, just time. Because the internet always moves on to the next spectacle. And when it does, Tate risks being remembered not as the icon he claimed to be, but as the cautionary tale of a man who mistook controversy for immortality and paid the price.